Thank you for completing the leadership assessment and welcome to this Conscious Leadership webinar. My name is Rodolfo Carrillo, Conscious Leadership Shaman and creator of the SER model. Today, you're going to learn about why is it great to identify the point where you're at in your leadership style, the challenges that I've seen in growing leadership, and I'll give you the next steps on how to take yourself to the next level and become a better, expansive, or even a conscious leader. So let's dive in. It really doesn't matter where you're at, either you're curious, awakening, or connected leader. It is really important for you to recognize all of the styles because you're always going to be working with other people whose leadership styles and leadership development is going to be at different levels. So you want to pay attention to a whole webinar. I decided to make one single webinar for all three levels or characteristics so that you can identify all of them and learn how to work with others because leadership is about working with others. So the first level is the curious leader. I love curious leaders because you're honest with yourself. If you identified yourself as a curious leader, you're honest, you've already identified the basics about the way you're operating, and you're ready to take it deeper. So we want to celebrate that. But just the mere fact that you took the leadership assessment and you're searching to identify your leadership style so you can grow on it is amazing. So don't get discouraged. I'll give you amazing tools so you can take yourself to the next level. The next level is the awakening leader. Now, awakening leaders are great because you've already been doing some work and you're expanding, but you're probably seeking how to take yourself to the next level. You probably already identify areas where you're stuck, where you could do much better, and I can give you the tools for that. So awakened leaders are great. And then there's the connected leader. So the connected leader, you've probably been doing your work for quite a bit of time. You've already identified, you've taken probably several courses or multiple courses. You're probably a very effective leader, and you're ready to fully embrace conscious leadership. And that's my favorite. Like when we can move into full conscious leaders, that's the greatest because that's where we can create the greatest impact. So again, regardless of where you're at, you want to stay for the whole webinar. You want to learn about all different styles because you're working with other people around you. So if it's not about you, you can probably identify someone around you that classifies or maybe identify with one of the other leadership styles. So let's talk about the challenges. The challenges of the curious leader. The first and biggest challenge of the curious leader is becoming aware. So curious leader probably hasn't fully acknowledged everything that goes on within. If you're a curious leader, you're probably still operating on a reactive mode. So things come up and you react without fully being aware of what's going on. We want to take you to the next level where we want to develop your awareness. And that's the next step. The next step is developing your mindfulness practice. Now, there's all different types of, or many different types of meditation. One of them is mindfulness. And mindfulness for me is very powerful because it's about training ourselves to look within. And as we train ourselves to become aware, then we can start recognizing what's going on. And once we recognize it, we can work with it. Right? So I had a client, her name's Mary, and she was working long hours. She was stressed out. She had little patience, and she was always pushing herself. When she hired me, she had already identified that this was a pattern in her life, but she didn't know why, or she couldn't stop it. So the first thing that we did is we worked on her ability to becoming aware of what was going on and why she was acting the way she was acting. Like what was triggering her to work this long hours, to stay away from her husband, to become so stressed, right, and be so compulsive about her work. Once she identified that, or when she developed that awareness, then she was able to start tweaking and transforming. So that's probably where most curious leaders are, and that's certainly the biggest challenge of a curious leader is that process of becoming aware. So you can learn about mindfulness in my leadership program and being leadership program, and that's one of the key pieces to becoming a conscious leader. Then there's the awakening leader, right? So the awakened leader, you can probably already identify the different problems and situations that rise up, but One of the challenges of the awakening is like I can recognize this is showing up. I'm getting angry at this. This is triggering me. These things are happening, but you probably don't have the tools yet to be able to transform and expand beyond that, right? So we want to give you the tools, and I want to give you the tools so that you can take yourself to that next level. You can not only identify the situations that are holding you back, but you can already work with them and expand yourself. So again, I'm going to give you an example. I had this client named Mark, and as Mary, he was already conscious about he was stressed. He was very conscious about being scared of being seen. Now he had already identified it. He'd already been doing mindfulness for a few years. He had already been doing personal work for a few years. And now he was able to recognize that he was scared of being seen, but he didn't know how he could work around it. Right? He knew the triggers, he knew the situation, he knew the triggers, but he didn't know how to work with it. That's where the SETO model comes in. And the SETO model is the basis of my conscious leadership development program or being leadership program. And so we worked with the SETO model so he could identify what were the beliefs, what was the identity, his ego, how his beliefs, his ego, the story that was going on in his mind, how that all those were combining to hold him back, so he was resistant to being seen. Right? And that was a beautiful process. So the awakened leader, biggest challenge, applying the tools, like identifying the tools that you need and applying them to expand yourself. And then there's a connected leader, right? And the connected leader, you're already good at what you are, what you're doing, right? You're probably already recognized as an amazing leader. You already expand yourself and probably have been doing work for quite a long time. So doing personal work and expansive work for quite a long time. So the challenge right now is how do I take it further? But not only further, is how do I also start developing leaders around me, right? How can I embrace that process, not only being the leader, but also developing leaders around me? And if you're there, if you're that already connected leader, conscious leaders are those, right? Are those leaders that not only have that poise and that level of influence through being that leader, but can also help others develop their leadership styles and the leadership influence, right? So, again, I'm going to give you an example. I had this client named Chris, and he was very clear on where he was and on where he wanted to go, right? So he knew that he needed to move from a style of leadership that he had been um, embracing for a long time, and he wanted to move to a different style of leadership so his organization could grow. Now the challenge for him was to embody that new leadership, right? And he was having trouble embodying that leadership style in that new role. And that's where we started working again through the SER model and the principles that the SER model gives us on how to embrace and embody that new role in a natural way. That's the challenge. It's not forcing myself into a new role. It's actually becoming that new role from within. Right? So connected leaders, they're the biggest challenge, right? Because you've already done you already have a house in order. Now what we're working on is how do we expand the house? How do we remodel the house? So uh, it takes a lot of courage, but it's also beautiful work. So that's probably where you are. So what are the next steps? What can we do about this? So again, curious leaders, mindfulness training. My Being Leadership program has an amazing meditation and the principles about mindfulness, so you can develop your mindfulness practice. But also, once we bring our awareness within, what do we look for? Like, what am I paying attention to? Right. So that's what you want to do is you want to take it to the leadership program, the Being Leadership program, and also, again, I'm going to recommend to all of you the book, right? The Being Leadership book, because you're going to have the SER model right there so you can work with it and you can start working with all the tools that come up. The awakening leader, you want to systematize your learning, right? You probably already have a bunch of tools. You probably have already been through a bunch of courses, but you want to learn how to systematize the way you work with yourself. Like if something comes up, where do I go? What do I do? Like what's coming up in what area and what tool can I apply? That's why having a roadmap, and that's what the SETA model is, a roadmap to yourself to be able to develop yourself is very powerful. Again, the book will give you the model in writing with a bunch of examples and tools and all that you can do. And the Being Leadership program will actually take you through a transformational process. Right? And then the Connected Leader. Right? Well, you probably already have the tools in the system. Right? And you probably already have a personal practice and what you want to do. So you're ready to talk to me, right? Because I can challenge you on how to expand. Right? So you can still do the book, you can still do the Being Leadership program, but you're ready to be challenged. And I love those challenges, so I want you to give me a call so I can take you to the next level. We'll talk a little bit about me. I've been using the SETA model since 2009, so that's 11, 12 years ago. And I've been teaching it to others since 2013. What the SETA model gave me was after I was through a bunch of paths, like I've been through every spiritual path you can imagine. I've been meditating since I was 7 years old. I studied different philosophies. I studied traditional psychology. I studied positive psychology. And I've been all around because my mom got me into meditation when I was and spirituality when I was a kid. So she started teaching me a lot of stuff, but then that became just part of my life. And I started applying all these tools and all these learnings to my life. And then I came by into the SETA model, right, which is composed of 7 principles, of 7 aspects and 5 principles. When I learned that, it took me to a different level because I was able to take all those learnings and put them into a system that would actually allow me to transform in a very simple way. Right? I've also been a consultant and trainer since 2005, an independent consultant and trainer since 2005, working all over the world, and with business, especially with business owners and CEOs. I've also been an external director in more than 20 business boards, and like I said before, on a personal development and spiritual path since I was a little kid. So my job right now, and the work I've been doing for the past basically 15 years, is bridging business in the outer world with spirituality in the inner world. And uh, and that's what I want to do with you. That's what I want to take you. I want to take you into that process of bridging those two, your inner world, your full potential, and then your outer world, and how you're impacting and influencing others, right? So that we can all create a better world. Because that's my personal purpose. My personal purpose is to raise consciousness in the world so we can all have greater well-being, right? So, like I said before, SETA model transformed my life. It's been what I've been sharing and teaching for a long time. And now it's on an online program. You can do it at your own time. It's short videos that you learn about it. Then you do some exercises. You have access to a community of conscious leaders. You have access to me directly if you want to ask any questions through email. And we'll be interacting. And it's an amazing transformational process. Leadership program, Being Leadership book, amazing complement for each other. I want to invite you to take the course, get the book, and transform yourself into a conscious leader so we can transform the world. Thank you for being here. Love seeing you expand. Hope to see you in the leadership program.